Chase, what's up, dude? How you been?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. I look at last night's lineup, and I feel like the Wizards front office understands the assignment down the stretch here. I know folks are excited about all the burn Will Riley's getting, chance to develop his game. What have you been seeing from Riley?
Well, first of all, it was the second night of a back-to-back, and they had to travel, so that was a factor.
God forbid we get on a private plane and travel to Orlando.
Right. And when it comes to their lineup, I'm sure you were happy to see a Maryland Terrapin in there with Juju Reese.
Listen, very happy. It also is fairly telling you sign a guy to a two-way and he starts two straight for you.
Well, as you know, I'm also a Maryland fan. I think it's cool because it's actually been super rare that Terps players have played for the Wizards. So, obviously they had Steve Blake, Juan Dixon, and Lonnie Baxter at one point, all three stars from the title team. But since then,
That's
only
crazy.
Alex Len has played for them. So it's pretty rare. But yes, he's in the starting lineup.
Could have had Queen last year. Just saying.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah. Jameer Young's in the league as well. But yeah, you mentioned Will Riley. I think everyone who's been watching this team closely this year has been waiting to see him get more minutes because, early in the season, he might come in for 4 or 5 minutes, but every single time he showed a flash of something interesting, usually on the offensive end or, chasing down an offensive rebound or a defensive rebound. He's got a great motor. Now we're seeing him get that opportunity, and it's encouraging because everything that he was doing in small moments, in quote-unquote garbage time, he's scaling upward, and now he's averaging 14, 15 points a game, shooting efficiently, making plays for others. So his development has definitely been one of the best surprises of this season so far.
I'm with that. So for me, I'm still watching the Wiz. I was watching last night. I went into the year with the right expectations that it's not about wins and losses, right? It's about seeing this young core grow, get better. What do they have for the future? And then they make the series of trades for Trae Young and then eventually Anthony Davis. And it's wow, they think they're a lot closer to being ready. For you, how exciting is tomorrow night, knowing Trae Young is going to make his Wizards debut?
It's going to be fun for sure. I mean, it's going to be almost 2 months since the trade. So he's been on the bench. He's been very engaged with the team. He's been giving, at least on one occasion, a halftime speech, to try to, inspire a comeback. So he's definitely been engaged with the team, but I think you could tell he's wanted to get out there. He's been a pretty durable player over the years, so it's not like him to miss extended periods of time. And it's just going to be a glimpse at, I think, more to expect next year. He's going to be on a minutes restriction of 17 to 20 minutes, so we'll see what he can do in that time on the court, and again, after a long layoff. But I think the energy in the building is probably going to be the best, maybe, of the whole season, because I think a lot of Wizards fans are excited to see him play.
Yeah, Trae seems to have bought in, and he seems to be totally sold on what's happening here. On the other hand, Anthony Davis doesn't. Can Trae playing and doing what he does help him come across to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Anthony Davis has been saying all the right things. There was that initial interview that he gave with David Aldridge that you're alluding to, where he did kind of have some question marks that he left out there. But he did a recent interview with Wes Hall, my colleague, and he was talking in specifics about how he's going to fit with Alex Sarr, how he's going to fit with Trae Young. And it seemed like a guy who was definitely expecting to play for the team, and maybe even fairly soon. I don't know if we'll for sure see him this year. That is the expectation. GM Will Dawkins has said that he expects him to play. So it seemed, my takeaway from that interview, really, in a snapshot, was that he seemed like he was pretty excited to get out there and play with these guys. In particular, Alex Sarr, I think he sees a lot of potential for them defensively. So, yeah, I think Trae Young in general can do a lot for this entire roster and the whole organization to go out there and sort of do what he does, which is, make threes, throw lobs, and, get the crowd going. Mm-hmm. And I think Anthony Davis, based on some of the things that he said, I think he's really excited about that partnership, in particular, him and Trae Young.
Speaking of Trae Young, BMitch and I talked about it. I kind of love that he got thrown off, that he got ejected even as a observer.
Spectator.
Yeah. How was that received by the team and the organization?
Yeah, they liked it quite a bit. It was interesting. There was kind of a spat on the court between Tari Eason and Jamir Watkins, and Trae Young got ejected for stepping onto the court, but he didn't do it in the traditional way where, you run on the court and you sort of get into the mix with the players. Like, he just sort of stepped on the court, but he was talking to the ref about the call.
He was telling him some choice words about that call.
For sure. But so it wasn't like he did anything reckless or instigated anything. He was just sticking up for his teammates. And so even head coach Brian Keefe said that he was proud of him for that, because that's something that he pays close attention to. And you'd be surprised what coaches pay attention to in the NBA when they watch games back on film. Like, they watch the bench and see, like, who's standing up, who's clapping for their teammates, who's, pumping their fist when a guy has a good play, who runs over and helps their teammate up. So that's something that Brian Keefe and pretty much any NBA head coach will pay attention to. So he liked what he saw in that moment.
One guy I've been, every time I watch him, he does a lot defensively and on the court. And he just, I don't know what's his future here. Justin Champagnie. At first I thought they were saying his name wrong, but his name is Champagnie. What's up with him? Because is he like a defensive guy or just like a role player?
He's a defensive guy who's coming around on the offensive end, but the thing to know about Justin Champagnie is he is one of the best rebounders in the NBA pound for pound. This is a guy who went to Pittsburgh and at 6'6" averaged 11 rebounds a game. So as soon as I saw that, I was all in. Like, I love players like that. Like, Josh Hart of the Knicks is very famous for it.
Yep.
But it's pretty incredible. Like, if you run some of the numbers with Justin Champagnie, like, he's like, if you look at rebounds per 36 minutes, like, he's up there with like Charles Barkley and Russell Westbrook among like the best, like, quote unquote smaller rebounders that the league has seen in recent years. So he's just got a knack for it. And what's really interesting about him as it pertains to the rebounding, I did a story about this last year. He has an identical twin brother named Julian Champagnie, who plays for the San Antonio Spurs.
Wow.
And Justin is like clearly the better rebounder. Like, they're identical in size. They look the same. They talk the same. They're the same people essentially. But one guy is like a vastly better rebounder than the other. Now, Julian Champagnie has other skills, but basically the story I did was like, these guys prove that rebounding is a natural trait, that it's like a gene that you either have or you don't. And they both agreed that Justin's got it because he could just see the ball off the rim like few guys can.
Talking with our friend Chase Hughes here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude makes the most reliable HVAC equipment in the DMV. A couple of pieces we know long-term for the Wizards are Keyshawn and Sarr. I kind of get the feeling we're not going to see Alex Sarr again this year. I think he's week to week with that hamstring. What is the latest with Keyshawn's elbow?
Well, I think he would have played if it wasn't a back-to-back. He did play the night before, but he left the game, and when he did, they were getting blown out, so I don't think it was a situation where, they would have pushed it anyways. So I think he'll be okay. The Sarr one is interesting. He sustained the injury right before the All-Star break. He was supposed to play in the Rising Stars game, and it didn't seem like it was a major injury at the time, maybe 1 to 2 weeks or something, but, he still hasn't played, and I'm sure BMitch could tell you hamstring injuries are just tricky. I mean, I've covered so many athletes in the past. In some cases, I remember in baseball, like Wilson Ramos, when I was covering the Nats one time, like everyone thought his hamstring injury was fine. And then, you hit one grounder and you try to eke it out to first base and, boom, you get a setback. So I think it's a tough injury by nature. And also, they're in a position where they don't feel like they need to push it.
Sarr, though, is my lean right that Sarr might be done for the year? And I'm not mad at him.
I think I don't think it's a very serious injury. I think it's just a tough injury, given it's a hamstring. And I would guess that they want to see him out there with both Trae Young and ideally Anthony Davis, because, I think they're going to try to get enough games under those guys' belts, especially Trae Young, to see what it looks like with their young players, because they're going into a pretty important offseason where they've got some cap room and they want to see what kind of holes they need to plug around these guys so that they can make a run for something more substantial next season. So I think there's value in getting him out there specifically with those guys. And when it comes to Trae Young, him and Alex Sarr will have to try to build some chemistry in the pick and roll, and that's going to be pretty important.
Yeah.
It won't be very hard for Trae. I think Trae just
he's got some experience.
Trae just needs a guy to be involved because the dude, from what I'm hearing from multiple guys, John Wall was discussing it, best alley-oop thrower in the league.
What a cool title that is. You know what I mean? Like, of all the things you can be good at.
Because, I mean, like, you watch guys, and when they try to pull somebody out of the stand in the slam dunk contest, toss this ball right here. They can't toss it right.
Right.
He's tossing it from outside the three-point line.
Half court.
He going for a layup and just let it up for you. He knows what he's doing. So, and I think Sarr go get it. They'll figure that out.
I think so too. I was looking up some of the numbers from Clint Capella when he was in his physical prime playing with Trae Young, 3-4 years ago, and he was throwing down 4 or 5 times as many dunks as Alex Sarr is this year, and especially on lobs. And Clint Capella at his peak, really, really good player, right? But Sarr is bigger and can jump higher. So there's potential there for him to throw down a lot of alley-oops playing with Trae Young.
Yeah, for sure. Talking with our friend Chase Hughes here, Monumental Sports Network. You can give him a follow. You can read all his work at Monumental Sports Network. Obviously, now, help me understand. The Wiz have to be bottom 4 to guarantee they keep their pick, but bottom 5, they most likely keep their pick, right?
Yeah, so bottom 4, they're guaranteed to remain in the top 8 of the draft, and that's where their pick is protected within. If they get the 9th pick or later, that first-round pick goes to the New York Knicks. But you're right, if they had the 5th worst record, there would technically be a percentage. It's very small, and pretty much the same thing if they had the 6th worst record. But, stranger things have happened in the lottery recently. Last year, I think the Dallas Mavericks had a 1.8% chance of getting the number 1 pick. So
I think that was league-induced.
So any small percentage is still a percentage. So, yeah, if they're bottom 4, then they're guaranteed to keep their pick.
Right now, they're bottom 4, right? I think they're 4th.
It's changing every day. And what's crazy is our former colleague Tom Haberstroh just put this stat out there. The bottom 10 teams in the NBA currently have a combined losing streak of 40 straight games. So everyone is in the same position. A third of the league is in the same position as the Wizards right now. It's crazy.
Well, when they put me, you, and JP starting in the next game, they're going to keep that bottom
4. Let Will Dawkins know Vic Ferreira is available. He's currently eating hot fries.
He is guaranteed that you'll lose.
We measured Vic at our BMitch and Finlay Combine. He's 5'6", 210, and has 6-inch hands. So if they need him, he's available.
What about the wingspan?
It's
the max vertical.
The max vertical probably 3 inches, and the wingspan. Let me see.
I don't think he
might be about. His wingspan might be 4 feet.
Yeah, I don't think Vic could jump up onto a 30-pack of beer.
That sounds like a challenge.
Maybe we see if Vic could jump onto a 30-pack. The draft is obviously very much.
You have to jump on top of the beer or drink it.
I like that. If you can't clear the 30-pack,
he could probably drink it. He got a little keg. He good.
The draft's obviously loaded, right? Who do you like? Because the top 3 had separated. Caleb Wilson is a dude I really like. If let's say they can't get who of this class do you really, really like?
Well, I like a lot of players in this class. I think that's the consensus is that there may not be a LeBron James or a Victor Wembanyama or possibly even a Cooper Flagg, but there's a lot of guys, especially in the top 10, that are probably at least a little bit above average for where they're going to be drafted. And so there's 3 players at the top, as you mentioned, that have really separated themselves. Darren Peterson at Kansas, A.J. Debonsa of BYU, and Cam Boozer of Duke. I just saw Boozer play against Michigan. He was really impressive.
Yeah.
Right now, A.J. Debonsa, to me, stands out above the other guys. I think he's got the best combination of size, athleticism, skill set, and demeanor. He's very reliable as a scorer. He's 6'9", super explosive, has just, you could tell, a super high, competitive edge. And Peterson, I think, had pushed ahead of him at one point, but he's got some durability concerns. There's some gaps in his game. Meanwhile, Devonta and Boozer are pretty well-rounded. I think just Devonta has a little bit more on the athleticism, side of things than Cam Boozer does. But it's really splitting hairs at this point, and I think it might be one of those rare years where the lottery arrives and we don't know who the number one pick is. Usually, like when the lottery is here, you know what the number one team is going to do and the prize that they're getting when they land the number one pick. That might not be the case this year because you got three guys who could be the number one pick and maybe the average NBA draft, and Caleb Wilson isn't too far behind them from UNC.
Every year we talk about the great things about someone, but those teams look at who scares me. Which of those three guys scare you?
Right now, I think you got to go with Darren Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lack of durability. I mean, he's had some injuries. You can't really fault him for that. But some of the games he's played in, he's bowed out early, and there's been question marks about, did he kind of ask to go out of the game? So there's just a little bit of extra baggage maybe with him at the moment, but he's also so talented. I mean, what's crazy about him is he's about 6'5" and super athletic, much more athletic than your average two guard. And he might be one of the best shooting prospects to come out of the draft in the last decade. Like, his ability to make shots off the dribble, off the catch, off screens is like as good or better than like Trey Johnson, for instance. But he's way more explosive of an athlete than Trey Johnson. And he's a really good on-ball defender, at least in terms of like getting steals. So I could see NBA teams overlooking some of the question marks because at the end of the day, they're not that big of a deal. You could probably project him to be a little bit more durable, maybe if you like, your track record with your training staff. So all these guys have a case for the number one pick.
Chase, our guy Ben Strober does the Locked On Wizards podcast. He says tomorrow night he expects to be the most fun Wizards crowd maybe of the season, certainly since that John Wall night. I was there for Wall night. It was a lot of fun in there. How ready is Trey to kind of get embraced by this fan base, and what do you expect for that game?
I think he's definitely ready to be embraced by the fan base. I think he's been kind of sending signs about that with all his DC sports jerseys he's been wearing on the bench. He's really trying to ingratiate himself with fans. And I think, it's good that it took a little while for the dust to settle after the trade because kind of like John Wall here, Trae Young had a really deep connection with the fan base in the city in Atlanta. So I think it took some time to process that, and he's really ready to embrace his new home and the fans. And one great thing about Trae Young is he's a bit of a showman, there's, he's got like the shiver, for the Ice Tray nickname. Mm-hmm. And then of course he famously rolled fake dice at the middle, at half court at Madison Square Garden when they clinched a berth to go to Las Vegas for the end season tournament. So he's got some flair to him, and I think that'll be fun for Wizards fans to watch.
DC.
It's going to be fun tomorrow night for sure. Chase, thank you for the time, bro. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, bro.
All right. That's our guy, Chase Hughes. Give him a follow at Chase Hughes DC.